What is up, YouTube? I am Galchomps74 here, bringing you our Week 2 battle of the IBA. This week we take on Pesky, coach of the Ottawa Garchomps. We are going into this game with an 0-1 record, while he is going into this game with a 1-0 record. We did unfortunately lose our Week 1, but we're going to try and bounce back this week. This is going up on Tuesday rather than Monday because I have had some recording issues, but luckily, big shout outs to Odds for helping me out through all this. I've been a big pain, and he's been very helpful. So again, major shout outs to Odds for helping me record this battle finally, and we're going to get up to you guys. But moving on, I'm going to explain Pesky's team right away because I do want to explain something, and in order for you guys to understand, you guys would need to know his team first. His team consists of Megalopony, Latias with Z-moves, Zeraora with Z-moves, Tangrowth, Toxapex, Mimikyu, Fortress, Umbreon, Moltres, Caracosta, and Cryogonal. Now, if I remember in editing, I am going to throw up my old Season 4 team right against his team, and you'll see there is a lot of similarity. You see he's got the Megalopony, the Latias, and the Toxapex, all the same mons. Instead of having Zeraora, I had Raikou on that team. Instead of having Fortress, I have Skarmory, and instead of having Tangrowth, I had Paladon. So the team structure is very, very similar, and I really love that team from Season 4, and I think it was a really good team. I think he has just improved and made that such a better team because of the Regenerator core, at least in Tangrowth, even though I still love Hippowdon to death. I love Hippo. But I just like his team, and I kind of know how it functions, so hopefully we can use it to our advantage in this battle. But moving on to explaining his team in the battle, I think the most annoying mons that I had to deal with this week are the Megalopony and the Toxapex. Megalopony is pretty hard to switch into, especially if predicted. I do have a few ways around it in this battle, but it is going to be tough regardless. Toxapex is annoying because it just doesn't die. Same with Tangrowth. His whole Regenerator core is really annoying to deal with. Tangrowth and Toxapex, they don't really hit me offensively too hard, but again, they just won't die. And Mimikyu can be a little bit scary if under the right circumstances. I do have counterplay to that as well, but if he weakens all my mons, he could easily come in and sweep with Mimikyu. But that is his team. The good thing about this team is that my offense actually does really, really nice against him. My Mega Gardevoir really shines in this match, and I'm going to explain that a little more when I break down my team, as well as my Komodo, which is going to make its season debut. But that is his team. I'm going to go over my team now. The team I am bringing consists of Komodo, Shaman, Mega Gardevoir, Heatran, Crobat, and Zoroark. So the first mon we are bringing this week, as I had just mentioned, is going to be Komodo. Komodo is rocking the Ground EMZ with a bulletproof ability, with max attack, adamant nature, 228 speed, and the rest in bulk. Moves being Autotomize, Earthquake, Drain Punch, and Ice Punch. I did have Dragon Dance on the set originally, but I did run Autotomize in the end because with this set, I can outspeed a max speed Scarf Latias once an Autotomize is up, and I decided that would be a good benchmark to hit. So I decided for Autotomize in the end, and I really already had the power to knock out most of his mons. There are 3 mons that stop this Komodo. Moltres and Mimikyu are 2 of them. I do have to be careful around those 2, and I have to make sure those 2 are dead or at least chipped to the point where I can knock them out then. And the last one's Tangrowth, and I say that very lightly because Ice Punch isn't going to be doing too much to Tangrowth, but Tangrowth isn't really doing much back to Komodo. And if I can get a Toxic Poison off on Tangrowth, then it makes Komodo be able to beat Tangrowth, as simple as that. And basically this just goes through the rest of his team without question. I can tank any hit from Zeraora unless it's like Outrage or Devastating Drake, which would be kind of a weird bring, but he could bring it, you never know. And that's kind of it. So Komodo just is the win con of the week. It goes through, runs house through his team. I can set Autotomize on like Fortress or something like that because I could definitely see the Fortress coming to this game. But that is our Komodo set. Next up we have Shaman. A Shaman is rocking our leftovers with max HP, max defense with a bold nature, and 12 in speed. Moves being Giga Drain, Earth Power, Toxic, and Synthesis. We are bringing bulky Shaman again. This is a good switch into Lopunny, but it's actually mainly here for Zeraora. When I drafted Zeraora in the Ocean League, I always had the fear of Shaman because I think I faced Shaman like 3 times, and Zeraora just gets walled by Shaman for the most part. So that's what Shaman's mainly here for. It's here to wall the Zeraora. It's also here to wall the Tangrowth because I can just Toxic that thing. And if he wants to throw a Toxic back at me, I can just switch out Natural Cure. It also walls the Caracosta if he wants to bring a Shell Smash Caracosta, so that's pretty cool. And again, the Lopunny, but that's to a lesser extent. I'll get into my main Lopunny counter in a bit. But that is the Shaman. It does give Toxapex a free switch in since I do not have leech seeds this week, but I'm going to have to figure a way around Toxapex otherwise. But that is our defensive Shaman. Again, Next up, we have our breaker of the week. We have Mega Gardevoir. Mega Gardevoir is running max special attack, 232 speed with a timid nature, and the rest in HP. Moves being Hyper Voice, Psyshock, Thunderbolt, and Hidden Power Fire. We are running 4 attacks because where is switching? I barely see one. If you want to have Tangrowth with AV, that is the only switching I could possibly imagine. Everything faster than Gardevoir does not want to be taking a Hyper Voice. Most of them just get one shot by it, and everything slower I have coverage for it, like Fortress. If he switches into a Hyper Voice, fine. HP Fire the next turn. Moltres, fine. T-Bolt the next turn. Caracosta won't even take it. Cryogonal, I have Psyshock for that, and I can tank any hit from Cryogonal. So, this is one of those matchups where Mega Gardevoir is really, really going to shine, and if I can break at least two of his mons up, be fine. I ran Psyshock mainly for the Cryogonal, but also for the Toxapex, because I wouldn't be shocked if he ran a especially defensive Toxapex this week. So that's why I decided to go that route in the end, and it does slightly more damage to Lopunny, not that it really matters too much. Actually, no, I think it's the same now that I say it out loud. It doesn't matter. This thing breaks his team like crazy. It is very important, so if Gardevoir does enough breaking, Komodo can just come in late game and just win. So that is the Mega Gardevoir, another very important mon of the week. Next up, we have Heatran. Heatran is rocking the lefties, which it's all max special defense, basically, with a little bit of each stat there. Moves being Magma Storm, Dark Pulse, Toxic, and Taunt. I wanted the standard Earth Power, but I felt like since this is also here for the Latias, I wanted to run the Dark Pulse to at least do some significant damage to that. This is here to trap the Toxapex, believe it or not. I would believe that Toxapex is this Heatran switch-in, because nothing wants to take a Magma Storm, except for Latias, and if Latias wants to come in, I can just Dark Pulse the next turn, or Toxic or Taunt it, depending the situation. So Toxapex is probably going to be a switch-in. If I can Magma Storm that down and kill it, hopefully, before it gets its Regen boost, that would be great. If I had Earth Power, I could guarantee it, but I think with Dark Pulse, I have to rely on like a flinch or 5 turns on Magma Storm rather than 4, because it's 4 or 5 turns. And that accuracy in Magma Storm is not reliable whatsoever, so I'm not happy that I have to run this move, but it just does too good against his team for me to not want to run it. It can also trap the Umbreon. Umbreon could be a switch-in. I can Magma Storm that, Taunt it, and then Toxic it, and then break it down that way. And Umbreon doesn't have regen, so that's pretty cool. It walls Moltres unless it's got HP Ground. Same with Latias. Everything if it has HP Ground is a threat, so I have to be careful about that. And it walls the Cryogonal as well. So Heatran is very important this week to trap. I wanted to trap something and kill it, basically. That's the goal for Heatran. And just to wall the rest of his team. So that's Heatran set. Next up, we have our Crobat. Crobat is our defensive counter to Mega Lopunny. This thing is rocking the Brave Bird, Super Fang, a Defog, and the Roost with the Black Sludge. Max HP at 164 defense with an Impish Nature and 100 in speed. I do not quite remember what I was outspeeding here. I think it was max speed Mimikyu I wanted to outspeed. I'm not completely sure, to be honest. I think that's what it was. But this wall, I don't want to say walls, but it can take any 2 hits from Mega Lopunny, even if it's adamant. So that's really cool when I can Brave Bird or Super Fang it back. This is also my main way around Toxapex. If Pex wants to set up Toxic Spikes, which would be a little bit scary for my team, I can just come in and defog it. Super Fang makes it that Toxapex isn't always at full health when I'm switching out with Regenerator. I can come in on Tangrowth and do some damage to that as well. It's just a really all-around good mon. Zeraora is a little bit of a threat, but Zeraora still doesn't want to be coming in on a Super Fang. So that's cool. It does good work against Mimikyu. It does good work against Fortress. It's a good mon defensively this week, and I decided to bring it in the end. I was looking at Gligar, and I was looking at it, and I thought, well, Ice Punch nukes Gligar anyway, so I'm just going to stick with the Crobat set. So I've been saying so a lot. I apologize. And that is our Crobat for the week. And lastly, this week we have Zoroark. Zoroark is also making its season debut. It is holding the Choice Scarf with max special attack, max speed, modest nature. Moves being U-turn, Dark Pulse, Extrasensory, Flamethrower. 3 good coverage moves and U-turn to pivot around his team. This outspeeds Scarf, max speed Moltres, so that's pretty cool. And everything that wants to switch into a Dark Pulse, I can freely switch in either Gardevoir or a reliable wall to those set things, like AV Tangrowth I can switch into fine, Lopunny, I have Crobat, and Umbreon I can just switch in Gardevoir and start nuking things. Zoroark is really good in this matchup. Zoroark is there to outspeed things if Komodo doesn't end up doing the job. Like, if Komodo is down and Latias is still a bit of a threat, I can at least bring in Zoroark and outspeed it that way. But that is it for the Zoroark. It was kind of a throw-on mon just to add on to my offensive pressure, as Gardevoir and Komodo do a really good job, but it's good to have more offense there anyway. But that is our team. Oh, and it outspeeds Mimikyu even if it gets set up. If it's like Disguise is broken, I can just come in and take a Shadow Sneak and hit it up with a Dark Pulse. So that's pretty cool as well. And that is going to be the team we are rocking out with this week. I apologize, my throat has been acting up really weirdly throughout this entire team builder, so I've probably been saying a lot of weird things or saying it weirdly. But anyway, we are going over to the recording, and we're going to watch a Week 2 battle. Alright, we are here. This is the recording. Again, thank you to Odds for recording this after the minor issues we had, and thank you to Zombie for genning my team this week. I always appreciate it. As always, this is going to be a long battle, as most of the battles are. It's not a short battle. But anyway, he did not bring the Mimikyu, and he did not bring the Moltres, so that's pretty cool. But everything else I kind of expected. He did bring the Regenerator Core. This is my Zoroark leading. It is Choice Scarf, so I just want to get a fat U-turn off to see what he's going to lead. This shows that Zeraora is not Scarf, though. I kind of expect that. I expect like a Z-move on the Zeraora, if not on Lottie. But I would think Zeraora would have the Z-move, if anything. And he does show the workup, and now I'm a little scared because he could have the Fire EMZ Fire Punch, and though it doesn't knock me out, it'll do so much damage to me. And Earth Power does not one-shot Zeraora back. So, but luckily he does just switch out, which is really helpful for me. I do click Earth Power, and the Tangrowth does come out, which is expected. I'm going to click Earth Power here, and you're going to see here it does absolutely nothing. It's to be expected because it's from a no-invested Shaman, but I did calc that, and that is Assault Vest. Sorry, I just ate Taco Bell. I'm going to get a Toxic off on this Tangrowth, but because he's Assault Vesty, his only form of recovery is Regenerator. And while Regenerator is freaking busted, it's his only way of recovery, so that's pretty good to note. He's going to knock off my leftovers, which does kind of suck, but I'm going to chip down this Tangrowth a bit. I'm just going to spam Toxic because I know this Tangrowth can't do anything back to me. He is staying in. He's going to get the most he can get out of this Tangrowth before switching out and getting full health from Regenerator. So that is pretty smart on my opponent's part, Pesky, but I'm going to just stay in. This time, however, after he takes this roll of Toxic, I know he's going to switch out. I'm going to predict him to go into Toxapex and click Earth Power, at least get something and not have a wasteful turn. As he goes into Fortress, which is just as good because Toxic wouldn't have done anything to the Fortress. So at least Earth Power can get some damage off. And this damage shows, I believe he's defensive more like. I don't remember, actually, to be honest. But I'm going to switch out. I can't really do much to this thing. So I'm going to go into my Heatran, expecting either the Rocks or the Volt Switch. Hopefully he just gets up Rocks, as he does, because I can defog those away with Crobat. Crobat is a more bulkier build compared to Week 1 if you skip the team builder. But here I can trap something with Magma Storm, as I do have that, as nothing really wants to take it, and hopefully the Toxapex comes in, which it does, and that's really good news. I just have to hit this Magma Storm, and I connect. So that's good. It's going to do a little bit of damage, not too much because it's a Toxapex, but it is trapped now, and I do have the taunt on my Heatran, which I am going to go for next turn after he does get a bit of recovery with the Black Sludge, so he does have Black Sludge and not like a berry or whatever. Is he going to take some chip here? And the thing is, I see this damage, and I'm realizing that since I had to click Taunt here to prevent him from clicking Recover, I'm going to need the 5 turns of Magma Storm. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And he shows Toxic Spikes too. So he's got Toxic Spikes. That's what we know. I'm expecting like Scald, Toxic Spikes, Recover, and Haze possibly, something like that. But I'm going to click Dark Pulse here just to get some chip damage. I have Dark Pulse because I want to be able to hit the Latias as well, as I am going to flinch the Toxapex. It depends on what I went for. He gets a little bit of Black Sludge recovery back, as the Magma Storm is going to continue to hit him up. It's going to chip him down pretty low, and I'm going to click Dark Pulse one more time just to get some more damage off on this Toxapex. It's doing a decent chunk of damage, which is pretty nice, as he goes for Knockoff, and I was like, alright, that kind of sucks, because I wasn't expecting Knockoff on this thing. And he's going to get some recovery back, as he's been getting recovery back, as Magma Storm is going to hit him up more. And this is turn 3. The next turn should be turn 4, I think. And now I'm going to go for Taunt, but he does the Baneful Bunker too. And I'm thinking, okay, he's got Baneful Bunker, Knockoff, and Toxic Spikes. That's kind of a weird set, but you know, whatever. He's going to get some recovery back. And right here, you will see, unfortunately, he does get freed from the Magma Storm, so he is going to be able to switch out here. And that really sucks, because if I had that last turn in Magma Storm, I think I would have been able to knock out the Toxapex. As he goes into the Latias, and I miss my Magma Storm. Now, in theory, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but you'll see throughout the battle that actually does come into play a bit, that Magma Storm miss. He is going to start setting up Calm Mind, so I'm like 500% sure this thing has Hidden Power Ground at this point. I'm just going to click Toxic so I can put it on a timer. Hidden Power Ground was not going to one-shot Heatran unless it was Choice Specs, and if it was Choice Specs, I would have been able to figure that out through calcing. I am going to get a Toxic off, so now this thing is on a timer, so that's always nice. This next turn I'm going to click Taunt so he can't get up to +3. He'll only be at +2 as he is going to reveal the Hidden Power Ground. And now I'm thinking, okay, he's got Calm Mind, Hidden Power Ground. It's probably going to be Psychic Roost, but then he wouldn't really be able to touch Mega Gardevoir, so that's cool. I'm going to taunt it so he can't step another Calm Mind, so it's not getting out of hand. And again, he's going to be taking some toxic poison damage. So this chip on Latias is pretty nice. I'm going to just click Dark Pulse because Heatran did sort of its job. Not really, since Toxapex is still alive. Not really happy. He reveals Shadow Ball, and that really threw me for a loop. That prevented me from going into Mega Gardevoir, and that's telling me he either A, doesn't have Psychic Stab, or B, doesn't have Recovery. I'm under the impression that he has Psychic Stab and doesn't have Recovery and just hoping to go in. At this point, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to go into my Zoroark, I believe. Yes, this is Zoroark on the field. I'm going to click Dark Pulse because I do not have a really good switch into Latias at this point, and I need to just click it. So his Tangrowth is going to come in, and since it is Assault Vest Tangrowth, it is going to tank this Dark Pulse pretty well. I'm only Scarf, I'm not Specs or Life Orb or anything, so it takes it pretty well. I don't want to stay in on this thing because it could do a lot of damage back to me. So I am going to switch out my Zoroark and go into my actual Crobat, as it's going to be confusing throughout the battle, the 2 Crobats in a row. As I take some Fat Rocks damage, he does pull a nice double on his part, but he only goes into Toxapex, which isn't that scary. I can finally defog these rocks away. It does suck that this Toxapex is still around, but this Crobat kind of walls it since, I can defog these spikes away if he wants to get spikes. As I'm going to defog, the rocks are going to be gone now, and it's going to force Fortress to go for them a little bit later, so I'll try and keep that in mind. As this turn, Toxapex is going to go for the Toxic Spikes, as I sort of expected it to do. I'm just going to keep clicking defog until he runs out of spikes, because I cannot have these Toxic Spikes on the field. They're very deadly for my team. I cannot finish the game off with a Komodo or Mega Gardevoir with them on the field. So here I'm going to click defog again. Or no, I click Super Fang to keep Toxapex a little bit low. That's what I do. My bad. So Toxapex is under 50 as he goes for a knockoff. He knocks off my Black Sludge. It's really annoying, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. It could be worse. But here, I think I'm going to click defog this turn. I don't quite remember. As he is going to switch out the Toxapex this turn and go into the Fortress. So, Fortress comes out, and I do click defog this turn. So now the Toxic Spikes on my side of the field are gone. And this time, I'm thinking I'm going to get a little more aggressive. I'm going to go to Komodo. Komodo, if Fortress has Gyro Ball, it doesn't affect Komodo because it's bulletproof. So that's a pretty free switch in for me. And if he wants to go for rocks, that's fine. I'll have Komodo on the field for free. As you'll see here, the Fortress actually just clicks Volt Switch. And that really sucks because he could just easily go into my Lottie now. Well, his Lottie now. And force me out. He doesn't know I'm not Scarf, but I am not Scarf. As he does go into Latias, he figures that I'm not Scarf. Komodo, as seeing that one of my Pokemon from earlier was Scarf. So that makes sense, in my opinion. As he is going to take some damage there, canceling out the leftovers. And I do have to switch in. I don't really have a great switch out, but since he only has Hidden Power Ground and Shadow Ball, I'm assuming Psychic, I can go into Zoroark, and Zoroark can tank a Hidden Power Ground pretty well. But he just goes for Psychic, so that was a really nice free switch in for me. He is going to take a little bit of extra toxic damage since it's doing 12% now. And I'm thinking, he's going to want to save this Latias because he's going to need it for Komodo. So I'm going to click U-turn this turn. As he does go into the Toxapex. I believe that's what I click at least, right? As Toxapex is getting regen back, which kind of sucks, but I do click U-turn, which gives me all the momentum in the world. And this turn, I'm going to go offensive. I'm going to go into Mega Gardevoir. And I didn't really count Toxapex too much throughout the battle up to this point. And I have Psyshock over Psychic because I was expecting a especially defensive Toxapex. But even if it was a defensive Toxapex, Psychic is a roll from this range because it's at a very high health and Toxapex is just fat. But it doesn't matter because the last move, assuming a Skull, it's not going to be doing too much to me. The worst he could do is like set up a T-Spike. As I am going to click Psyshock here. Hopefully I can knock it out. I believe it's a roll regardless. And this Toxapex lives. And he busts out the Gunk Shot. So he's got Gunk Shot, Knockoff, Baneful Bunker, and Toxic Spikes. I live to hit on 7 health and I don't get poisoned, which is really nice. But that was just really a really unfortunate turn. That was probably the worst turn in the battle, in my opinion, for me. Because I didn't get the kill, and Gardevoir is so low. It's important because this thing cannot switch into rocks now. I click Hybrid Voice expecting him to switch, but Baneful Bunker was a smarter move to get a little bit of chip back. I click Psyshock this turn because I was calculating still, especially defensive Toxapex, though at this point he has proven to be a more defensive Toxapex, while this thing here is especially defensive. So Shock's going to come out. Even though he is especially defensive, Tangrowth is just so naturally bulky, it's only going to do so much. And I still feel like Gardevoir has some usefulness into this game because Latias can't switch in, Lopunny can't switch in, Toxapex can't switch in and take 2 hits. Fortress I still have HP Fire for, so it's got some usefulness. So I'm going to go into Komodo as he pulls another double with this Tangrowth, and it's really annoying me with these freaking doubles. He goes into Fortress though, and this is not bad. I can click Drain Punch or Autotomize. I decided to go for Drain Punch to get some chip on this Fortress because he could still be Aqua Berry and for Mega Gardevoir later. And now at this range, HP Fire knocks it out even with it, but while without the Drain Punch damage, it would not have. He does click Volt Switch, which sucks because now he can go into Latias for free. Looking back at it in the battle, in the really long grand scheme of things, I should have clicked Autotomize as he actually brings out Zeraora instead. So this is fine with me. I'm assuming he doesn't have Outrage as he just clicks HP Ice, I'm assuming, which it does a decent amount of damage. But I am going to just click Earthquake this turn and knock out the Zeraora. But back to the Autotomize. If I just click Autotomize, yes, Fortress would have still had a lot of health, but I would have been faster than everything on his team and probably just claimed the kill. I think the reason I didn't click it was because I have Ice Punch and not Dragon Claw on this thing. And Ice Punch was a roll on Lottie still, so I didn't want to risk that yet. Here he goes on Lopunny, and because of that HP Ice damage, I am in range for an HJK, so I don't want to risk that. I'm going to go into my Crobat, as Mega Lopunny is going to Mega Evolve here. And despite the fact that he still has Regen Core very healthy, and I've only taken out one of his no, I haven't taken out anything yet, have I? No, I just took out Zeraora. I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good position. Komodo is looking really good. I just got to get an Autotomize up at the right time. And I had to chip down the Latias, and that's it, basically. So that is kind of the goal I'm having. Here, I'm going to click Roost once on this Crobat, on this Lopunny, because I want some health back, and I want to be able to live another hit later, or come back in on rocks. I think that's what I was trying to go for. As I click Roost here, and I'm going to click Roost one more time, as he clicks Ice Punch this turn. And you'll see here, I get frozen. Yeah, I get frozen. First turn Ice Punch, get frozen. That really sucks. That was a really big freeze, because unless he would have switched out next turn, I would have clicked the Brave Bird on this thing. And though Brave Bird was a roll to kill, it would have put it in range of like anything, like Scarf, Zoroark. So that was a really big freeze. Crobat didn't get to do any damage on this Lopunny, as I just sent in Shaman, and he goes back into his Latias, as I just click Giga Drain just to get some chip on this Lopunny. And all the momentum I had, well, any momentum I had, it just went into his court, and that really sucks. Shaman is my main defensive wall for that Megalop now, because I can't really take too many hits on my other mons from that thing. As Latias is going to take that toxic damage to neutralize that leftovers. I cannot touch this thing whatsoever since it's already toxic poison, so I have to switch out. I have to go into my Zoroark because I've been using it as my switch into this thing the entire time. As this is Zoroark, obviously, because I have full health. As he clicks Psychic, I do get that prediction right again. And at this point, I know he's not going to stay in with Latias, and instead of U-turning out, I'm going to click Extra Sensory, just hoping that Toxapex comes in. I believe that's what I do this turn. Yeah, I click Extra Sensory this turn, and you'll see here, he does go into Toxapex, and this is a defensive Toxapex. He's just has over half health, so I'm thinking, I finally get rid of this Toxapex. It's going to be a little bit of an easier game, but he lives this Extra Sensory, and this Toxapex is the most annoying mon ever right now. I cannot seem to kill this thing. He's going to click Baneful Bunker. I'm fully expecting it. I'm just clicking Extra Sensory again for the off chance he doesn't. His only real switch into Extra Sensory at this point is Fortress, and Latias too, but Latias can't do anything back to Zoroark unless it is boosted. And here, what I should have done was go into Komodo and take advantage of the Fortress switch-in, but he could have switched in Tangrowth too, thinking back at it. But I don't. I click Extra Sensory, and it's going to do some damage, but it's not going to do that much to Fortress. As now here, I decided I make a risky play. I'm going into my actual Mega Gardevoir this turn around, expecting him to go for rocks. Because Crobat is gone, I cannot defog the rocks away. So that was the reason why I go to Mega Gardevoir, but unfortunately he just clicks Volt Switch, and my Mega Guard goes down. And that was, Mega Gardevoir didn't really do much this game either. And that was just another bad series of events right there. As now he just goes into Latias. It's going to force me to go out into Zoroark here. Luckily, he takes the leftovers and Toxic. They cancel each other out right here instead of on the first turn, so that's pretty nice. So I am going to go into Zoroark here. And I honestly forget what I click at this point. I have Zoroark, Komodo, and Shaman left. This battle is definitely still possible. It's definitely still winnable. As I click Dark Pulse this turn, and he goes into Fortress. He makes the really smart move, and he just sacks off his Fortress. And this sucks because that was actually my main settle target for Autotomize, though Tangrowth could still be one as well. Because now he knows I'm Scarf at this point, so he goes into Lopunny. I don't have a clean switch in to take 2 HJKs, so I'm just going to click Dark Pulse, hoping to get some chip damage on this thing. As it does a sizable amount of damage, and I do get a flinch, which, that's kind of cool, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. My only hope here at this point is for Shaman to kill the Lopunny and kill the Latias somehow. And then Komodo can face off against his Regen Core. As Return is going to absolutely nuke my Zoroark, so that sucks. As now I have to go into Shaman because Komodo cannot take in HJK, and I don't want to risk the 90% move because it's going to hit. As here, he is going to click Return. I believe I click Giga Drain this turn. Yeah, I do, just to hopefully knock it out, though I am not invested, and it does not knock it out, which, that makes sense. I don't think it was a roll. But here, I'm going to click Synthesis once, expecting him to try and get as much damage off as he possibly can, which he is going to do. It's doing less than half, so this is going to be a net gain for me in the end. This is mainly here so I can take a boosted Psychic from Latias and try and knock that thing out. As here, he is going to reveal the Toxic. And that is a really smart bring on Pesky's part because that turn I did click Giga. I believe I click Giga Drain this turn and knock out the Megalopony, which that's pretty cool. But this allows Latias to be able to set up on me. And since that Latias is poisoned, that thing's also getting chipped down. But since I am also getting chipped down with the Toxic on the Lopunny, I can only outstall it for so long. So it's going to come down to this if I can outstall this Latias. The bad thing is I let my leftovers get knocked off really early in the battle, so I'm not getting a little bit of chip recovery back. I'm just losing some. Rather, on his side of the field, he is getting some leftovers recovery back. So this turn, I click Synthesis just to get up as much health as I possibly can. I'm going to be at basically almost full health after the round of Toxic Poisoning, so it's going to take 12% of my health, I believe, this turn. As this turn, he is going to not lose anything because of the leftovers. He got a free switch in, so yeah. As here, I originally had I had Dazzling Gleam as a thought for my Shaman, but in the end, it wasn't really a smart play for the overall grand scheme of things. But in this position, D-Gleam would have been really nice, as that Psychic does an absolute chunk to my Shaman. I am physically defensive and not specially defensive, so that's why it does so much. I'm just going to try and stall this out. Hopefully, somehow I can survive long enough for this Latias to die to its own Toxic Poisoning, because I am not faster than Latias. Komodo is not faster than Latias. So we're going to hope here. I'm going to just keep clicking Synthesis to the point where, again, hopefully I can tank some hits. But this Toxic Poisoning on the Shaman is starting to rack up a bit. I can't switch out to get rid of it because the Komodo is sitting right there. As I click Synthesis, and I realize at this turn that I just can't keep clicking it. Here, I'm going to take a lot of Toxic Poisoning after the Latias takes Toxic Poisoning. As I'm looking at the Latias health bar, and I'm realizing that I don't think the next round of Toxic is going to kill. And that's going to be the really unfortunate thing, as I take a lot of damage there. And I'm not going to be able... And for the off chance I live this next Psychic, I'm just going to click Giga Drain, trying to get more chip off on this thing. And I die, which is understandable, obviously. I was at really low health. And because of all that leftovers recovery, I believe that is actually the reason that he lives all that Toxic Poisoning, as he is going to live the hit here. And all I have left is Komodo in the back. It is slower than Latias, and it is going to knock me out with Psychic. So, spoilers, we are going to lose 3-0 as he just connects the Psychic here. And down goes the Komodo. So, that's game. We lose 3-0. GG to Pesky. I'm definitely not going to sit here and say that freeze cost me the entire game, but I really truly believe if he would have stayed in with that Megalopony and he would have allowed me to hit that Brave Bird, I still would have had my Zoroark around and not had to sack it to the Lopunny, dealing with that Latias, and it probably would have still came down to Komodo versus his Regen Core. And that would have involved me predicting... I had a Ground Z on that thing, so it would have came down to me predicting Toxapex coming in on a Ground Z, probably. So I would have had to go through that. I don't know if I would have been able to win the battle there, but because of the freeze, I wasn't even able to get to that opportunity. So that was kind of unfortunate, but it all still would have depended. It would have came down to a prediction anyway. So again, GG to Pesky. We are going to lose. We are going to move down to an 0-2 record, so that is pretty unfortunate. If you have made it throughout the entire video, I'd like to thank you guys. This has been a long one for my voice as well for you guys. It's almost at a half-hour recording at this point. So big thank you to everyone watching this video. Next week, we take on Diet Tight, coach of the New Britain Rockruff. I believe he is also like a commissioner of the league as well, so that's pretty cool. He is going into that game with a 1-1 record, and he's got Coco Lucha, so we got to deal with that next week. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. That's all I got for you guys. I'm going to head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.